Finally here. Today is the day. We are wiring the solar panels up on the roof. I've got my buddy Chris and my buddy Phil here.
I'm just a tool runner.
They're going to help me get all this wired up top and then wired to the solar controller maybe tomorrow and get this system up and running and get us boondocking more.
Solar coming.
Solar is coming, so stay tuned and we'll show you how it went. Welcome back to our epic field trip. I'm Scott Field, and you may recognize this guy, Phil Farley, and this guy here, Chris Clark, and we're going to discuss how I installed solar onto my coach. Now, we are not experts. We're not going to get too involved in exactly what everything is. We're just going to do a quick overview of how I installed solar on my 2015 Entegra Anthem. So to start it off, what was our objective? We wanted to add at least 1,200 watts of solar.
Yeah.
So I believe you took a picture of the top of my coach.
Yep, that was a start.
And at that point, I used Corel Draw to figure out how much space I had on each one. And you and I got up and we videoed how much space. Yeah, marked it all out. And that way I could search solar panels and see what the sizes were. And I ended up using, I think it was 6 200 watt panels. So
Three different types, which is really unique. A lot of people don't do that. So
right.
Square and rectangular. So
Right.
that's pretty cool. They were both types were the exact models, so worked good.
It worked really well and it fit. I don't have a whole lot of space on the top of my roof with all the vents and the ACs. So the max I could get was 1,200 and using 6 panels.
And the key was you were able to get those two different sizes to fit the space that you had.
And we originally discussed we were just going to go with 180s until we found those other two sizes.
Right.
So to go to the 200 give you a little bit more, so you could stay out longer and get the batteries charged a little quicker. So that was a nice find.
It was a really nice find, and I got that at Continuous Resources. I know you said, hey, go out and check out Continuous Resources, and they were a really good resource to get the panels and some other items. So the panels were the main thing. We found that. I found the ones that fit, and then what we do, we cut out cardboard and paper to make sure that they would fit. And I know we did that, and we got all that done, and then it was time to
figure out where the wire's at.
Right, where's the wires at? My coach was wired for solar, but nobody knew where they were coming up to the roof.
It was a secret. That was probably the biggest part of your install, was determining where the heck they went, where the end of the wires went.
Well, we found them in the bay, in the battery bay, when we did the batteries.
Well, when we installed the battle boards. Exactly.
But we couldn't find where they were on the roof.
No. So I called Entegra real quick, and they said, well, we don't have a schematic of where they came out. I've got at least 12 air vents up top.
Yep.
I was like, so I found the two places. We found the wires. We thought everything was perfect. No. So
that had to have been the longest part of the entire install on your rig.
Frustrating part.
Yes, was trying to run down the wiring and where they were, one, coming from and going to. That was the long pole in the tent.
Long story short, we got all the panels installed, all the wiring. We're ready to go down to the batteries. We're like, well, man, I hope everything's okay. We get down there and we've got electric down to where our, and we said the worst thing it could be, we could get down there and we have nothing.
And we had nothing.
And we had nothing. And we were like...
And I'm going to quote Scott. He said, Well, I wasn't expecting that to happen.
Like, oh my God.
It was the biggest letdown, and the three of us just kind of stood there.
Well,
like,
to explain that, when you got 1200 watts connected, we're looking for a voltage. We go down there and we got 0. I kept thinking, okay, multimeter's bad.
Yeah.
Not push the leads in, which was a problem. What's going on here? We couldn't figure out where they were coming from, and then we started looking around, and a brainstorm because you just put the ARC 50s in.
Yes, I did, and that was another deal. We were really ready to just give up at that point.
Yes.
To just,
I was done.
Yeah.
We've had enough. But in my putting the brand new ARC 50s in over the door inside, I saw this little like electrical box cover. Like it's blank. So I pulled it off, and I'm like, there are our wires. Why are they there? And sure enough, Entegra says that they ran the controllers there, and both our wires from the bottom and the top were back in that box. So we connected.
When you open up that panel, you had the wires from the roof that went to the back of that box, and then they were cut.
From the very back of the coach
All the way
roof,
from the
Yes.
back.
all the way to the
They were
front,
cut,
up underneath
and
the
then
entry.
they ran wires from there to the battery bay. So they weren't connected there.
Right.
So that
Just
was
had
our
all these
disconnect.
wires sticking out.
Yep.
So it was connected, what we thought up top and at the bottom, but in the middle they were just sitting in the
And
cabinet.
no markings,
tape.
no labelings, no nothing.
Nothing. So we connected those two. Boom. We go
Yes.
down. Oh, we've got
We
success.
got power.
That was quick. After
That
we
was
found
quick.
it.
I'm glad we found that too. So that was one of the things that did go wrong. And let's see, what with the MPPT, we did use all Magnum stuff. I have Magnum inverters, 2 of them, 2800 and 2000, and I wanted plug and play, so I did get the Magnum MPPT 100
Yep, just
solar
control,
controller, and that was really easy to install and was right by the batteries. So we wired up the solar controller, the Magnum solar controller, and everything was talking to each other, and everything seemed to be working great. So I decided to unplug from the pole at the RV resort and run everything and see how the solar did. We had pretty decent sun, but I could see that I was getting some voltage, but it wasn't reading amperage. So I thought there was a problem. SOC wasn't going up on the ARC 50. So I knew there was some kind of problem. I know I had called you and said, hey, we did a video talk, and I said, this is what's going on. And he wasn't with us, so he couldn't track it down. I called Magnum about the solar controller. They walked me through all the connections, and they said, okay, your negative wire coming from the MPPT, is it on which side of the BMK shunt is that wire? And I looked in, I said, it's on the wrong side. It needs to be on the inverter side of the shunt so it can read all the amperage and wattage going through, in and out of the batteries. So
because that's what tells the PT100 what to turn up. So,
right, and it reads the ARC 50 so I can see the proper side versus not a good side. So
other than it being in a hard to reach spot, it was an easy fix. And I say that because Scott was channeling his inner sailor doing that piece.
Yeah.
But again, it was a great troubleshooting on Magnum's part to walk you through it, and then for you to be able to do that and switch it relatively easy, got you back up and running.
Got it
like you
back
should.
up and running, and everything reading properly. And from that day forward, we've had everything basically running really well. I mean, it's not doing right now because we're in the shade. But
big trees.
we know
Big
it works.
trees.
Yeah.
We actually took a point where I know nothing about solar or electricity. Phil knows nothing. We call Chris on a regular basis asking questions, but there are good options on YouTube to look at. I know I looked at a lot of YouTube to learn how
Good
solar
forums.
controllers work. Solar controllers work. But you were the biggest help of all. Thank you for everything that you did for us. But yeah, it can be done. I didn't know anything about solar or any electric, what size wires to use. I got to be honest, Continuous Resources was a very big help. AM Solar, I called them and talked to them many times to verify what wires could be
And
used.
circuit breakers.
And circuit breakers, absolutely.
Because we did put a input and output disconnect circuit breakers. So that
We
was good.
did, and they said that is an excellent thing to do, and so we did that also. The combiner boxes that they sent us, amazing. So yeah, those are two resources that I used a lot, other than Chris, because Chris was, oh my God, thank
A wealth
God.
of knowledge. Yeah, another nice surprise in the equipment side or the supply side of things. We needed some last minute. Both of us needed some last minute wirings and fittings.
And crimping.
And crimping.
And crimping.
That's right. And we found a place that had what we needed. And when we got there, they rented us or loaned us an old hydraulic crimper. Was it a hydraulic crimper?
No, it was just mechanical.
Just a mechanical crimper.
It didn't charge us a dime for it.
Perfect.
We had it probably a week.
Yeah.
4 or 5 days.
We did.
Great company. What was the name of the company?
Lewis
Pryor.
Lewis Pryor
Lewis Pryor
Electrical.
in Tampa. Phenomenal service.
Oh.
And I mean, Scotty had to go back a second time
I did.
for some additional pieces, but you can find everything. I mean, we just had to look for it and know where to look for it, and that was key.
Great supply service.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the customer service there was top notch. That guy, I had to go buy a whole new wire for that one that I put in the wrong space
Yep.
because the one that was there was too short. So I had to have a whole new one to get on the other side of the shunt. So, and he says, "We'll crimp it right here. We'll do everything."
Perfect.
And he sure did. Took great care of me.
Yeah.
So I
And
can't
they had
say-
everything. They had the shrink tubing, they had the wiring, they had everything we needed, all the connectors,
They did.
terminal ends.
And Chris was really good at he didn't tell us, go buy this. He recommended, he said, hey, this is what I recommend.
Yep.
Do your own homework.
Do your
And
own.
when he did that, it caused both of us to get into the weeds and research these items.
Right.
And then it wasn't Chris. You know how some people want to show you how to do things and they take the tools and they just do it.
Yep.
Chris was like teaching us how to do this. Now again, he says he's not a professional, but I trust him for any electrical advice that he could give me.
Well,
and Scott,
also,
I
the
really
main
do.
reason for that, like we discussed, is that I'm not going to be there when y'all are out
Yeah.
in the middle of California boondocking,
Beautiful.
and you need to know how to fix something. If you don't know where you put stuff,
Yeah.
if I did it all for you, I mean, I know there's guys can do that, but now you can go and do some
Yeah.
simple troubleshooting and say, hey, that fuse we put in, maybe that's what it was. So that was the benefit
Yeah.
for that, and I appreciate y'all
Yeah,
living
no,
with
it
me
was-
through that, because I know some of y'all didn't like the
Oh.
digging in the weeds and up underneath it.
Well,
It needed to be done.
It
that way,
needed to
I
be
think.
done.
Because you're right. Now if either one of us have an issue, we can call you
Yep.
from whatever state we're
You know
in,
where it's
and you
at.
could say, check this, and we
Yep.
know exactly where it is and how it was put together. So that was a great
That's a
benefit.
great benefit.
And then the fact that both Scotty and I, he did his, I helped him, and then he came and we did ours, and he helped. So we did 2 different setups
Yep.
on 2 different rigs. So we got that much more
Experience,
training
yeah.
and knowledge, I would say, behind it.
And the best part is, like he said, like we're up top, and I've got 2 separate legs of solar.
2 separate ends of the coach.
Right, at 2 separate ends of the coach, 3 each, and they're wired in a series. So he's like, he didn't just do it. He says, okay, how you gonna wire this? It's like, okay, we figured it out.
Yeah.
We did the same thing over at yours. How you gonna wire this?
We had a dry erase marker, and
Yeah,
we were drawing it out on
Drawing
the
it
roof.
down
I mean,
on there.
it-
We're
it-
like, what the heck?
And the benefit of doing it that way is we learned our systems. Both
Yeah.
of us. We learned. We saved a ton of money by doing it ourselves. So I think that was probably both installs went better than I anticipated.
And the
Way
bottom line is, we didn't know a thing.
No.
Okay, but now we both installed our solar with his help, but I could do it again.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's the whole intent. Yeah, and
Absolutely.
and you can help others. That's the whole thing. Pay it forward. So
We got this guy named Al.
Yeah. We're coming for you, Al.
Coming for
coming
you,
for you,
Al.
You-
That's
we-
right,
we're-
baby.
We're ready.
You're
We're-
next, and
We're not professionals, but
No.
we're there to turn wrenches and splice wire and all of that other good stuff.
and if you have those expert questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Shouldn't be any problem because I do know what I did, but at the beginning, I didn't know what I was going to do. So
There's some sleepless nights.
there was a lot of sleepless nights
I
because,
would say so.
you know, it's
There is a lot of components, though, and without having some shared knowledge between everybody, it's really, that's the benefit. You know, but yeah, did you do that way? Yeah, okay, yeah. It really helps out a lot. So.
and it's good to be able to talk to each other
Yeah.
on a regular basis.
And like we did with yours is his. We worked like we were been working together for years.
We did.
I mean, we had absolutely no problems. Everything went perfect. You know, between the working y'all on top, me down below, you knew what I was doing. I'd come up there and check on y'all. It absolutely went spot on.
Yeah,
I thought.
we may be crying up there because we're like not sure what we're supposed to be doing, but you know, he would make us feel better.
Yeah.
That was
this
just
is
the
what you-
combiner box. I had to get a piece of cardboard and say positive to negative, negative to positive, crimp these, do this, and I wrote it on the blackboard.
That you
But
did.
it worked.
It did.
And
It
worked.
then y'all had to do it on each one of
Yeah,
y'all,
it
so
did.
y'all saw how it worked.
It did.
It
You
did.
know, and having a decent place to do the install was key too. I mean, you have to be sitting somewhere for a good minute, you know, to be able to accumulate all your stuff. And being on the road wasn't easy. And I was literally traveling down to where Scott and Chris were, and had my stuff shipped to Scott. You know, so
That was cool.
you know, everything just kind of fell into place. The stars aligned, and it was. It took a while to plan it and get us all together, but I think once we did, and the plan came together, and
Yeah, and it took us
We're
about
happy.
2 days for each install
Yeah, it
all
did.
together.
All together.
But that's after the batteries were installed, and y'all's. That's the big difference that a lot of people. I have a fifth wheel, so remember, if you're looking at this and you're seeing that you have a fifth wheel or a travel trailer, not a motor coach, most motor coaches like these already have the inverter there. So if not, that's the big difference in mine. I had to put the wiring to the inverter, do all that's part of that series, and the batteries and the solar.
that's
So,
a good point.
Good
Because,
point.
Yeah.
you know, we did these installs for around $3,000.
Yep.
But we had some of those components already. So
Absolutely,
those that
a lot different.
those that are looking at it, you can say, well, you didn't do the batteries or the inverter, and was already purchased and already installed.
Right.
So it's a
they were in
separate total
phases.
prog.
Yeah, it was in phases.
program,
So
yes.
you know, it again, we're showing you that it can be done. You know,
It
you
can
just-
be. That's the key.
Yeah.
It can be done. You don't have to be an expert. You don't really. You can do the research yourself,
Yep.
and
can do
with
it in
just a
phases.
little help.
And there's a lot of resources to help out.
Right.
Continuous resources, AM Solar. If you got questions, they help design for free.
And
Oh, they do.
They answered.
And they've got
my
the
questions.
forums. Absolutely.
They answered Scotty's questions. I mean, and it you know, it couldn't have gone any better. You know, in my opinion.
In my
Couldn't have-
opinion,
it couldn't
too.
have gone-
I agree.
job.
Thank you for watching our epic field trip. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do. Hit the notification bell and go find your adventure.
Boom.
And maybe in our world here, there lives a happy little mountain.